Hello viewers, welcome back to our channel. Today I have with me an SAP user. Hello ma'am, how are you? I hope you have watched our first video ma'am. How was your experience?
Hello, sir. So I'm doing well. I've watched your first video. It was very helpful and informative. It would be further of great help if you can highlight the important aspects related to the input parameters discussed in a previous video.
Okay ma'am. In this video we will discuss in detail the first input parameter, that is invoice number, and also common errors noticed in reconciliation resulting in mismatch of invoices. Ma'am, as per GST law, an invoice number can be of up to maximum 16 characters and can contain alphabets, numbers, and only two special characters, forward slash and dash, and any combination thereof. Further, no space is allowed at the beginning, in between, or at the end of the invoice number. Clear, ma'am?
Yes, sir. So I understand it can be a maximum length of 16 digits. Can it be 4 characters as well?
Yes, ma'am. It can be of four characters also.
Okay, sir. So I have another question. Can vendor issue two invoices with same invoice number in the financial year?
No, ma'am. Second important aspect regarding invoice number is that it cannot be duplicate. Say vendor with GST number X issue invoice number 1234. The same GST number X cannot issue another invoice 1234 in same financial year. However, vendor with GST number Y can issue invoice number 1234.
Okay, sir. So, can you further elaborate on the common errors which are noticed while entering invoice number in SAP, which results in mismatch of invoices?
Yes, madam. Now let us discuss the common errors noticed in invoice number entered in SAP resulting in unmatched invoices. In SAP, we have configured validations in respect of invoice number so as to minimize errors in data entry by the end users. Validations in SAP will not allow special characters other than forward slash and dash in invoice number, and no space will be accepted at the start or in between the invoice number. After implementation of these validations, the errors on account of data entry errors have been eliminated. However, it has been observed that users make following mistakes in invoice number. First, they add space at the end of the invoice number. For example, vendor has given invoice number 9999. They record it in SAP as 9999 followed by a single space or a double space. Second error we have seen is users sometimes either add, delete, or alter the invoice number while recording the same in SAP. For example, vendor has given invoice number 23 slash 2022 23. It is entered in SAP as 23 slash 22 23, which results in mismatch. And third error we have noticed is that instead of recording invoice number in SAP, users record commercial invoice number, performa invoice number, file number, etc., which results in mismatch. To overcome these errors, the users are requested to enter the invoice number exactly as given by the vendor in his GST invoice number. Clear,
Sir,
ma'am?
I'm very here. Even after taking all precautions, if there is some error in recording invoice number in SAP, what action can user take to settle the mismatch?
Madam, invoice number field is editable in SAP. User can correct the invoice number by using transaction code FB02 so that the invoice get matched in the next reconciliation result. Clear, ma'am?
Okay, yes, sir.
Now, next frequent error noticed in invoice number mismatch is users post single SAP document against multiple GST invoices and vice versa. That is multiple SAP documents for single GST invoice.
So can you elaborate on this error?
Yes, ma'am. For example, vendor has delivered OFC cable against single PO in 3 installments. On each installment, he will issue a separate GST invoice. After complete delivery, he submits a commercial invoice covering all the 3 GST invoices for payment. These GST invoices are also attached with the commercial invoice. Users, while posting invoice in SAP, do only one Miro for all 3 GST invoices on the basis of commercial invoice. This results in mismatch as vendor will report all 3 GST invoices separately in his GST returns with GST numbers. And vice versa cases, vendor has provided services in all business areas of the circle and he has submitted a single GST invoice. In this case, user while posting the invoice in SAP run separate Miro business area wise posting multiple SAP documents. This scenario also remain unmatched due to invoice number mismatch.
Sir, how to avoid this type of error?
Madam, in first case, separate Miro documents have to be posted for each GST invoice by selecting separate MIGO, that is MIGO, created for each receipt of OFC cable in SAP. And in second case, user has to post only one SAP document through Miro transaction by selecting multiple SCS and MIGO entries created at different business areas which are covered under the invoice.
Sir, it means that user has to post one SAP document number per GST invoice number.
Yes, ma'am. Exactly. Next error we have noticed is that after matching of the invoice with GST returns, users edit the invoice number in SAP. It has to be noted that once the invoice which is posted in the SAP has been matched with GST returns, another document which is posted with the same number in SAP will not be sent for reconciliation. Say for example, user has booked an invoice in SAP with invoice number XYZ and it get matched with the GST returns. Now user edit the invoice number of this matched document to ZYX and post another invoice in SAP with invoice number XYZ. The next document which is posted with the invoice number XYZ will not be sent for reconciliation. Any questions, ma'am?
So if the user has changed the invoice number of matched document, what is to be done?
Madam, in such case, the user has to intimate the detail of wrongly matched invoice to BSNL corporate office for resetting the matched status to unmatched status, and then he can edit the invoice number and post another document with same invoice number. In this case, both the documents with correct invoice number will be sent for reconciliation in next run. Clear, ma'am?
Yes, sir. So I have one last doubt. In case vendor has given us an invoice with invoice number which is not compliant with GST laws, what is to be done by user?
In this case, ma'am, we have to ask our vendor to give invoice with correct invoice number with which he will file his GST returns. We have to educate our vendor that physical invoices with correct invoice number and invoice date must be submitted with BSNL and the invoice must be reported in the GST returns with exactly same invoice number and date so that we can claim ITC and also we can release his payment in our time. Any doubt, ma'am?
No, thanks, sir, for your in-depth guidance regarding this important input parameters. We would like to have similar guidance regarding remaining input parameters in our next session. Thank you so much.
Yes, sure, ma'am. We will discuss remaining important input parameters in detail in our next video. Thanks, ma'am, and all users for your valuable time. We will return soon with more of such informative videos. Signing off for now, BSNL Corporate Office Taxation Team.